Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mike Lamb, and my friend here is Adam Gahabe, and we're coaches talking about coaching things, and we're here to discuss some more fun things this morning. Hope everyone gets something from it.
Yep.
Um, Today we've been talking and we want to move forward with the conversation about marketing, collecting data with regards to your marketing, what efforts work, what don't, and how to really just analyze that information that you're getting or
hmm
not getting and how to get it. So, Adam, I'll let you roll with your first thoughts on this. I could ask you a lot of questions, but I think let's just get the conversation going.
I don't know if questions are needed. I really don't. So listen, marketing, sales, these are topics of conversation that come up all the time with clients, with prospects, with people just coming to us and talking about what their challenges are. We've talked about this a whole bunch. A lot of people are really good at their product, their service, their brand, right? Um, they're really all sometimes not always all that great on the marketing piece. Who are you going after? Why are you going after them? What is their buying cycle, right? I've talked to a ton of people about this. Buying cycles. I'll start there because it'll be top of mind rant. It's like, okay, who do you market to? And they'll tell me A, B, C. Like, all right, what are their buying cycles and how do they differ? I'm like, I never thought about this. Well, Mike, how do you not know about your buying cycle? You've chosen these three groups of people for a reason, which means you've done your research about these people, which means you've collected data on these people. You know when they buy, you know how much they buy, you know the types of things that you can upsell on, you know the things that are just baseline services or products or needs for them. You've done your research on these people. Now, if you're not tracking that data and you're not utilizing that to basically drive your marketing or your sales cycles, then what are you doing? Right? I mean,
That's
what are you doing?
one of my, as a coach, one thing that makes me cringe a lot is when I hear people talking about marketing and they talk about, I feel like we're getting more from Google Business, or I
Mm,
feel like we do better when we meet one to one. The feel is great. I love we all have feelings. But it might be just what's recency bias, right? Like I feel like
yep.
Google's working because I got two calls today from a Google customer or a Google ad or something like that. But they really don't know the data. They're not tracking it. They're not collecting it anywhere.
Yep.
And that leads to our feelings and
Okay.
sometimes they're just not right. And it's better to go off of the information. And if we haven't been collecting it, we got to start. You can go back and look at your data or try to figure it out, but make sure you know today, starting today,
Yep.
if you're gonna do it, got to start collecting it, even if it's just as simple as writing where it came from down on a spreadsheet.
All right. Perfect. Right. And so you jumped into data on data mining, right? I started back on, well, basically know your customers, know
Yeah.
your clients. Either way, these are two really, really influential and important points when it comes into figuring out what your marketing plan is and what is your execution strategy around said plan. It's not just about marketing, right? It's not just about knowing these people and knowing where they hang out and where they spend money and what they do after work and what's their demographic and all those things. Those are important points, but it's how are you executing on the plan once you have that data? You said, write it down. And I love that because you know my mantra, if it's not written down, it's not real. So let's say that they've done their due diligence. Okay. They identify their markets, their ideal targets, right? They've done the background data and the research. They know that they have four different incoming funnel or pipelines into their sales process, right? Whether it be phones, internet, Google Ads, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever have you. They know what those funnels and pipelines are. Why is it so critical to spend the time and attention on looking at the data entry points? And how does that lead to how you coach around the exit strategy and what they do with that data.
So yeah, collecting that data, then it's just such a big topic. But when we're collecting that data, it's knowing our pipelines. Like you say, we funnel people in, and then we need to understand what that looks like from the time we get a lead in to the time that it's close sale.
Mhm,
What are the steps that a customer takes along the way? Now I know who generally where they're coming from. I'm identifying who they are. Once they're there, what does that look like through the process and
mhm,
identifying that for my product or service, and making sure we have an understanding of, it takes this many contacts with this client before they're going to convert into more than just a lead. They're going to just be a prospect at that time.
yeah.
Then once they're a prospect, how many touch points and what do we need to do along the way to get them to that close? And it could be a lot more touches than you think. And you
Mhm,
may not even know that because you're not collecting information and you're not adhering to one set process through that.
mhm,
Um, so a lot of customer relationship management tools have pipelines for that reason. So we know
of
where our
course.
customers are, when to contact them next, and to move the chain forward,
Yeah.
and move
Yeah.
it down the field. So once we collected the customer, now what's the steps and how many contacts? Is it going to be once that person's here, is it 30 days? Is it 2 days? Is it, this many presentations before they close? What is that? Where does that come from?
The art of the follow-up. I
Yeah,
believe that's what we're talking about here.
yeah,
I mean, how often do you follow up? What's the frequency? What's the mechanism that you use? Right? Are you an email person? Do you go old school and call? Do you do a drop in? Um, what is the method and means that works best for you? And then secondly, how do you know when you're bugging people? That's a common question that I get. Listen, Adam, had this great prospect, had a couple great conversations. I send an email, I get nothing. I've called, I've got nothing. It's now been 10 days. What's your response to that person?
yeah. Um, in my experience, what it takes, so most people get a lead and have a good prospect. The amount of times they contact on national average, I actually went to a training on this.
Hmm,
Most people contact between 1 and 2 times a lead, most
and
businesses,
stop,
and stop. So
stop.
you're getting 0.01% quality out of that lead at that point. You're
Yep,
you're not even at 1% of the amount of contacts. And
yep.
so that training I went to, they talked about a call cadence and having a cadence of contact with your customers. And and you don't stop that cadence until they vigorously say no. Now that it is, not calling them every day and leaving them a voicemail over and over.
Mhm,
There's a few steps. There's initial calls with voicemails. There's
yep,
ghost calls where you don't leave a voicemail. There's emails that refer back to the calls that you've made. And it's over a 14 contact cycle over 30 days to get 85% quality out of that lead, 85%
mhm.
return on that lead. Um, so that's 14 contacts on average. And if you put a customer through a cadence like that, and you're adhering to it, you're going to get 85% results on that. So
So I just heard you say persistence and perseverance, right?
100%.
So to that person who's been ghosted after 10 days, persistence and perseverance. That doesn't mean nagging, but it means have a plan, track how you've contacted these people in the past. What was the time duration, the frequency? Heck, what was the time of day? When were you contacting these people? Is it at the beginning of the week on Monday morning when you know things are typically frantic? Maybe not your best time. Do you know this person's schedule, right? So being able to really ferret out the key details as to what this person's doing, what their time availability is, and when to respond back and try again, I think is crucial. So
Yeah.
be persistent, persevere, have a plan, and don't deviate, right?
Yeah.
Stick
Stick to it.
to the plan. People people buy on their own schedules, right? This is something we've all been ingrained and it's been beat into us. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay for people to buy on their own schedules. It's okay for people to have lives. But you know what's not okay from a sales standpoint? Giving up through lack of trying. You see all these people call the leads, call this, call that, follow up, adhere to the process. It's truth. It's truth. Those people that are diligent win out.
If you put a customer into that call cadence that I discussed, you'll see that most of the time by like call six or seven, they're gonna respond to you after a couple emails and a couple phone
Yeah.
calls. They're eventually gonna pick up the phone and either say, you know what, leave me alone, or they're going to say, hey, I really appreciate your persistence. I've had this said to me a lot of times where people are like, you're really persistent, and I'm happy you're persistent because you know what? I'm now getting to you.
Yep.
So we have time today. And
Yep.
like you said, something so important. It's like knowing your clients and knowing when to contact them. If I'm working with somebody that I know has meetings on Monday, or most people in that industry have Monday meetings. I'm not going to call them on Mondays because I know they're going to be in meetings. I'm going to
Or
call them.
Friday afternoons. Please
And
don't, right?
if you're trying to get an owner of a business, you probably need to be calling early in the mornings because you know they're going to be the only one in the office, or they're going to be the only one there after later hours.
Mhm.
Know your customer base and know when's the best time to contact them, because you will just do wasted energy if you're not contacting during the most important times. They Studies show Tuesday to Thursday in those areas, people are more likely to take phone calls or respond. Um, you know,
100% true.
Morning hours between 7 and 9 are the best hours, and then afternoons between 3 and 5 is what
Right.
I've heard as well. And
Yep.
then sometimes some industries you can catch more on lunch hour. So it's
Yep.
a matter of they have a business they're running, they have things, or they're even there. If you're contacting an individual, they have a life they're running. Maybe we need to contact during certain times. If we're not um, identifying who our customer is and when's the best time to contact them, we're missing opportunity with every call possibly. We're calling on our time when
Yes.
you're available.
Yes. On our time, which we all know, no one lives on our time but us, right? So
Exactly.
one other thing that I preach, and I know that those that listen and actually speak to me are like, please stop. But I'll say it again. Leave with value. Lead with value and then leave them with value.
Yeah.
Every single call, give a nugget, provide something that you want to emphasize.
Mhm.
It's no different when I'm coaching clients on how to present themselves at networking groups, right? Lead with value, change up your value and quality statements, lead them with something new each time. Your follow-ups in your marketing and your sales process should be no different. Your initial entry point into what you do and your value, all that stuff's fantastic and should be the same because you want to get the brand recognition, right? But in your follow-ups, hey, Mike, I was thinking about you. I know that, last week we were talking about trucking and I ran into this fantastic brand new Freightliner and I thought of you, right?
Yeah.
Makes it personal. And then I said, by the way, I also noticed that I was running into a loan servicer last week, and they were talking about these great rates for commercial loans. I know you've been thinking about that truck. I just pictured you in it. I just wanted to go share and see if that's something that you wanted to have a conversation about. Has nothing to do with selling anything that you and I do, right? But it was top of mind and it came and it made a personal connection. There was value. It was a connection of value from me to them that cost me nothing, cost you nothing, and it may spurn the conversation forward, right?
Yeah. I've heard it referred to as a give and get.
Perfect.
We give something and we'll get something in return.
Yep.
And that add value, right? Every conversation, whatever it is. And like I love your examples. Like give them something that is personable that they can utilize, and then you'll get something back. Hey, you know what, Mike? Thanks for that information you sent on this. Um, you know, your get might just be, hey, Mike, Thank you for the information. Tell you what, let's talk in 3 weeks. Okay, now I have an actual time that I can say, okay, I will contact you on, then you respond and say, I'll contact you on this time,
Yep.
this day. And that's the other thing is if we're meeting people in person one to one, we want to ask them when's the best time to contact them. If we're talking to
Yes.
them, say, hey, I want to respect your time. When can I contact you that works
Yep.
the best that won't interrupt your work schedule
Yep.
or
I
your
think
daily life schedule with your kids or whatever it is?
But once again, we all have lives. I want to re-emphasize this. People don't buy on your schedule, they buy on theirs. People don't want to be talked to or ingest information the way we like to give it. It's the way they want to give it. We in the sales and marketing fields need to be chameleons. We need to morph ourselves, our delivery, our speech patterns, our times of calling, our response types, all those things to meet other people's needs, right? I don't know about you, but lately I started to do video follow-ups, right? Everyone checks their text messages. Everyone,
Mhm.
right? So if I've had maybe 10, 14 days have gone by and I haven't heard back, I'll generate a really quick 30, 60, 90-second video message. Just they see my face, it's personal, it's to them. It talks about our last conversation, maybe what I was thinking about and why they came top of mind. But guess what? People will look at that. They'll read it. The open rate is 100%, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how many people can say that about email
Yeah.
or about picking up the phone, right? So here's my point. Be creative. Change up what you do and how you do it because people will respond and they will appreciate things that are specific to them.
Yeah.
Just a
And
thought.
I'm with you. And how do we keep track of that? I'm managing 100 clients, let's say, or I'm working with 100 clients. That's a lot to manage, right? So we need to be taking good notes. We have to have a customer relationship management tool that we're entering it in and
Hmm.
say, contacted at this time, left this message, or sent this video message, so that we're able to identify, okay, that didn't work on a Tuesday at this time. I'm going to try this at this time on a Wednesday or a Friday. Um,
Yep. Yep. So
because-
underutilization of the CRM, not knowing what information to log, how to retrieve the information, and how to align the information that's in your CRM to your future sales pipeline and your structures. Things that I tackle constantly
okay.
because they think the data sits here and it's there, but they don't know how to use it. And then they don't know how to fuse it in with their activity cycles, right? When I was when I was in college, I was working for a funding and finance firm, and one of my jobs, I was the IT intern there, and one of my jobs was to build all of the call portals for all 30, 40 of the reps there. And I would be constantly building these portals and these things based on time of day and regionality of all the different things. I mean, I basically was running a call center, right?
Yeah.
And the point of this story is we were changing the phone numbers we were using to have the origination point within that particular location. I was purposefully scheduling certain call blocks to be in certain time zones, certain time frames based on the industry. It was either later in the evening or early in the morning, but all that was because we had this huge database, a CRM, and I was able to pull and utilize that data to have a purposeful schedule
Mhm.
in what I was having all of the agents go out and exercise. The point of this story is be deliberate with everything that you do because on a massive scale, you may have the resources where you can hire an intern at 19, 20, 21 years old. Maybe you don't. That just means you have to be even more purposeful with your actions. And so, spending the time, the energy, the money to invest in data, the data tracking, and how to consume that data, I think is critical for your marketing, your sales, and your execution success. Yes?
Yeah, 100%. And even the next level on that is I know it's kind of people don't love it, but having a script, I know that you can fall back on or go back
Falling
to
back to.
where
Yeah,
you're at. It's not necessarily you want to stick to like a robot, but you got to have that written out, what the points are you got to touch on, and you can collect data on this too. You can say, hey, I utilized this pitch this many times, it didn't work, or I utilized this email and I see that I'm getting more responses. Subject lines are a huge thing. If you get
sure.
the subject line right, you're going to have a lot more likelihood of having someone open an email.
Okay.
Um,
So what
and
is your go-to there? Are you going for emotion? Are you going for fear? Are you going for encouragement? I mean, those are your big threes.
yeah,
What are you using?
it depends on your industry and
Yes,
who
it
you're
does.
going for.
Yeah.
Know your industry.
Industry, time of year, and how that industry is doing, right?
Yeah.
Also, who are you targeting within the industry, within that organization, right? Are you targeting your HR representatives? Well, guess what? I'm going to have a strategy on targeting them, and it's not going to be about you guys are doing a great job. Right? It's going to, hey, this is a common trait or fear that I'm seeing within your peers. Does this sound familiar? Yes, no? Great. It's an entry point. It's a conversation. You would target your CEOs and your C-suite staff in a much different manner, right? It's all about positive reinforcement, revenue driving, dollars and figures, stats, things that you can really target back to and saying, so and so is X. Where are you? Right? It
Mhm.
fosters them and forces them to kind of look inside and reflect. But know your audience, know who you're targeting, know what technique you're using in that tagline, that pitch, that connection point, right? But it's got to resonate.
Yep. And sometimes you might be the only person in your whole company doing that as an owner
You
or and so those your time first of all is super valuable. So you want to get
know?
the most out of your time and you want to get the most out of those leads. So be thoughtful. It in the bigger scheme of things, if we're running 1 million data points a day or whatever, then we can really nail that down and get a ton of information. But when it's and you can run a lot of numbers through. But when it's just you and you're the one doing everything, you're doing the marketing, the sales, the proposals. Man, we got to get really good at this so that we're not wasting our time
Yeah.
and really qualifying our leads as well. Um,
I
so,
think that's fantastic. I think this has all been excellent information. I hope it was thought-provoking and got everyone to go think. Any final things you'd like to share before we kind of wrap on this, Mike?
just what we've been covering is so fun and it's so different for everyone. So stop
Yeah.
and think about it. If you aren't doing it, get going on it now. Start collecting that data, start
Yeah.
learning your clients and learning the process to close sales.
I think what I'd like to close with is what you just stated. This is personal and specific to each and every person. So if you're out there listening, if you're in one of our general areas, please reach out. These are things we love to talk about. Like we'll sit down and have a 45-minute conversation with you about how we can kind of help give a little focus and shed some light. And let's talk about what you're doing today. What's working, what's not. Like this is the start of the relationships, right? Let's make them, right? Cool.
Okay. Thanks, Adam.
All right, Mike.
Like always, you can find us on all of the streaming platforms as well as on our personal social media accounts. So reach
That's right.
out. We'd love to talk to you and be of help with your marketing plans and
Thank
sales.
you.